Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Walillahil hamd.
الذي نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا ومن سيئات اعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد ان محمدا عبد الله ورسوله ارسله الله تعالى بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا فصلى الله عليه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. اما بعد فان اصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وان شر الامور محدثاتها وان كل محدثه بدعه وكل بدعه ضلاله وكل ضلاله في النار. قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم بعد ان اقول اعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم لقد صدق الله رسوله الرؤيا بالحق لتدخلن المسجد الحرام ان شاء الله امنين محلقين رؤوسكم ومقصرين لا تخافون فعلم ما لم تعلموا فجعل من دون ذلك فتحا قريبا هو الذي ارسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم ثبتنا عند الموت بلا اله الا الله اللهم اجعلنا من الذين امنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر امين يا رب العالمين. On this beautiful occasion of Eid, we're often reminded that this Eid is a celebration of the legacy and the sacrifices made by Ibrahim alayhi salam. But today I want to add something to that conversation. Our Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, his primary objective, his role, was to restore the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam. His job was to clean up the house that Ibrahim alayhi salam built. His job was to restore the worship of Allah on the religion and the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Which is why when Allah Azza wa Jalla gave him the promise that the Kaaba will be restored, that is actually called Al-Fath. That's the ultimate victory, when that house that was originally made by Ibrahim alayhi salam, so people only worship Allah, is going to be brought back to its original purpose. But when we celebrate the Hajj, which is actually what we're doing across the Ummah, we're actually celebrating this ceremony of Hajj, all of which is tied to the sacrifices of Ibrahim alayhi salam. At the same time, we are also celebrating the sacrifices made by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions. And I want to bring attention to that. Yes, Ibrahim alayhi salam, every one of the rituals that we do is tied to one of the sacrifices that Ibrahim alayhi salam had to make. Everything from running between Safa and Marwa is the sacrifice of his family. Doing the tawaf and building the Kaaba is after he passed all of his tests. Sacrificing the animal goes back to his, Allah instructing him through the dream to sacrifice Ismail alayhi salam. So everything goes back to Ibrahim alayhi salam in one way or the other. But in addition to all of that, in these few moments, I want you to appreciate something. Our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam was given a dream. Just like Ibrahim alayhi salam was given a dream. He was given a dream soon after the Muslims were almost all killed. In Medina, we were surrounded by every group that could align themselves with the Meccans, and they wanted to kill all the Muslims inside the city of Medina once and for all. It was going to be a genocide. This was not going to be a war. A war happens on the battlefield. This was going to happen inside the city, in civilian territory. So men, women, and children were going to be killed. And the only thing that prevented that from happening was a trench that was dug. This is the Battle of Al-Ahzab. The trench that was dug that kept the enemy from coming into the city, and then Allah sent an invisible army of angels to uproot them. And they weren't able to be successful. But you have to appreciate something. The people of Makkah were not just interested in fighting the Muslims now on the battlefield, they were so thirsty for the blood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and for everybody around him. They left their home, they spent money, they sacrificed, they made a lot of alignments and a lot of allegiances, and then they came together all the way here to the house of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam to try to eliminate, to finish the problem of Islam. When they were unsuccessful, after they left, now we know how powerful they are because they can gather everybody and they can come after us. It is after after they left, the Prophet saw a dream, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that he's going to go to do Hajj. That he's going to go to Hajj. And when you go to do Hajj, you're not supposed to go with weapons. You don't go for fighting, you go peacefully. Amineen, as the Quran itself describes. So the Prophet ﷺ sees a dream that we're all going to go make Hajj, as if you're going to go walk in peacefully into Makkah, where the enemy is thirsty for your blood. And some narrations say 1,800, some say more, companions of the Messenger, radiallahu anhu ajma'in, may Allah be pleased with them, they all said, if the Prophet saw a dream, it must be true. So they all agreed to go. And they go on their way to make Hajj to the enemy that wants to kill them. Kaaba is not a safe place to go. It's not like it is today. You don't just walk in and start praying. And so as they are going, the spies of the Meccans, they get word they send word back to Makkah that they're coming. So they are now getting ready to kill the Muslims on the road. Not even when they get to Makkah, on the road. And the Prophet ﷺ had to take a different road so that he could avoid being slaughtered. Really, the Muslims would end up being slaughtered because they have no weapons. They just came with their animals to sacrifice. So they go from a road that is never used by human beings, actually. And when they go through this road, many of you know they ended up in the field of Hudaybiyah. But I want you to know, when they walked on this road, the rock was so hot that it melted their shoes. And the rock was so jagged that many of them, their clothes were turning red from blood, from scrapes. And they were doing this all the way to fulfill the dream of the Prophet ﷺ. And they make it to Hudaybiyah, and at Hudaybiyah, the Meccans try to send assassins, 80 of them, to try to kill the Messenger again, ﷺ. This is right before they got in. And even then, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was able to, make their attempt unsuccessful. He disarmed them and sent them back. And now the negotiations started happening. But I'm not here to tell you about Hudaybiyah. I want to tell you something else. When finally they got there, and they were, the long and the short of it is, they were not allowed to make Hajj. They were not allowed to make Hajj. They walked there, risking their life, with the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all these companions, with their animals. And I want you to understand, some of those animals are their life savings. That's all they have. They don't have anything else. Some of them don't even have a house, they just have an animal. And they bring that animal to slaughter because they're coming for Hajj. And now, the Messenger tells them, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we're not going to do Hajj this year, we're going back home. But wait, we're not just going back home, we're going to slaughter the animal, and we're going to send the meat to Makkah. We're going to send the meat, because the meat is supposed to be distributed there. They can't take the meat back. This is the first celebration of Eid. Can you imagine? When we sacrificed the animal, the first time it was done, we didn't even get to eat the food. The enemy ate the food. They were so angry, one of the animals that was caught was the camel of Abu Jahl from Badr. Abu Jahl's camel was caught in Badr. You know what? The Muslims were so angry, but they were passive aggressive. They cut off its head, put it on a tray, and sent that in first. Because they wanted to send a message. We're not happy about this. But the idea was all of the Muslims were upset. Every companion was upset. Every one of them. And those of you that have studied this event in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, you know that even the Sahaba that were always calm couldn't keep calm. And even when Umar ibn Khattab raised his voice to the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr didn't stop him. Not immediately. Even he didn't stop him. When the Prophet ﷺ said, we're going to shave our heads, we're going to sacrifice the animals and shave our heads, all of the companions that were listening, about whom Allah says, Sami'na wa ata'na, we hear and we obey, none of them obeyed. None of them. Not one of them listened. And the Prophet ﷺ, this is the first time it's happened in his life, that he says something to his companions that are willing to risk their life for him, and they're not listening to him. This is the first time that happened. This is the event of the first Eid. This is actually what we're celebrating. The Prophet of Allah ﷺ, finally, on the instruction of our mother, does the sacrifice, shaves his head, and they follow in suit. But everybody's upset. Everybody's upset. And the reason I brought this up is Eid is a time of celebration. We're supposed to be happy at this time. But when you remember this incident, no happy memories come to mind. It's a pretty stressful event. But Allah changes our way of thinking. Allah revealed in the Quran when they were heading back, Unsuccessful, not being able to make Hajj. Unsuccessful. How? Some of them are even questioning. I thought the Prophet saw a dream, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Why didn't we do Hajj? The dream is supposed to be revelation from Allah. Then why didn't it happen? And even Umar ibn Khattab actually asked the Messenger, why not? And he said, I never said this year. But he could have asked the follow-up question, if it's not this year, what are we doing here? Why didn't we come here next year? But this was part of the test. And when they head back, Allah revealed Surah Al-Fatih, all of it. And when Umar saw the Prophet's face, I want you to remember this. When he saw the Prophet's face, after the surah had come down, he doesn't know the surah has come down. He looks at him and he says, I have never seen his face more lit up. I have never seen his face happier than that moment. This is what Umar ibn Khattab sees. Why? Because in an incident, in an event where it was so depressing, and it was defeat, and it was humiliation, and it was a waste of time, money, resources. We risked everything, and we got nothing. The only thing we got out of that was Quran. Quran came. Surah Al-Fatih came. And this surah came, and it was enough to make the Prophet ﷺ happy. And this surah, this event, if you study it from a historical point of view, you will say this is not a victory. But the Quran says, إِنَّا فَتَحْنَا لَكَ فَتْحًا مُبِينًا. We've given you a clear victory, an open victory. I want you to appreciate the emotional side of this. Some of the people who came to do Hajj used to live in Makkah. That was their home. Now they were kicked out of their home. And now they're coming back for the first time after many years. They're coming close to their home. And they have these feelings. This is where their childhood was. This is where they were raised. This is where their family is. And now they can't go in, they have to go back again. And all of that will mess with your heart, your feelings. You'll have anger, sadness, depression, frustration, confusion, all of those anxiety, all of those feelings will overwhelm you. What is the gift that Allah gave believers? That Allah calls the ultimate victory in the surah over and over again. هُوَ الَّذِي أَنزَلَ السَّكِينَةَ فِي قُلُوبِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. He sent down calm, peace, tranquility, and He sent it deep into the hearts of those who believe, and deep into the hearts of believers. The reason I shared this story with you today on this occasion of Eid, and I told you it's going to be a brief khutbah, is because the greatest gift Allah gave the Ummah on that day was that He gave us the ability to find peace in ourselves because of the revelation of Quran. We will not have a stressful situation in our life that will compare to what they went through. We will never compare to what they went through. The kind of sacrifice they had to make, walking through that heat. We walk in the Texas heat for 10 minutes, we know what happens to us. We know what kind of headaches they get. They're walking in that heat between Makkah and Medina. And there's no air conditioning. And they're doing it for the sake of Allah through a territory that's bleeding them on the way. And they're coming back. And yet, Allah made their hearts calm. Allah gave them calmness, sakina, fi qulubil mu'minin. As a matter of fact, later on, فَأَنزَلَ السَّكِينَةَ عَلَيْهِمْ وَأَثَابَهُمْ فَتْحًا قَرِيبًا. And he sent tranquility and peace onto them, and secondarily, He gave them victory too. Like the victory is less important, this was more important. This peace and tranquility was more important. So what I wanted to leave you with, what I want you to think about, is you and I, all of us, Allah created human beings in kabad. He created us in labor, stress, difficulty, pain. All of you have some pain in your life. All of you have some difficulty in your life. No human being was created without difficulty or without pain. And you know what? Any difficulty you have in life will be easy to deal with if your heart is at ease. If your heart is at ease. Sometimes people have all the money in the world, but the heart is not at ease. Sometimes they have everything on the outside, it looks good. The clothes look good, the car looks good, the house looks good, everything looks good. But there's no peace inside. They're stressed, they're sad, there's a hole inside that can't be filled. Allah Azza wa Jalla gave us something that no money can fill, no parties can fill, no clothes can fill, no food can fill. You know, when people get stressed out, they do stress eating, people do stress shopping, you know, people do stress buying, people take stress vacations, and the hole doesn't get filled. And Allah gave us something in this most stressful occasion. Allah turned that into a celebration until the Day of Judgment. Why? Because we can find peace and tranquility in the Word of Allah. When you come to the Word of Allah, seeking calm. When you come to the Word of Allah, just وَمَن يُؤْمِن بِاللَّهِ يَهْدِ قَلْبَهُ. Whoever truly believes in Allah, Allah guides his heart or her heart. May Allah Azza wa Jalla make us of those who find peace and tranquility in our hearts from Allah's words. Give Allah's words a chance. The Quran is not just there for you and I to study tafsir and to study some ilm and to learn some information or to learn the Arabic language. The Quran, one of its goals is to actually calm our heart down, to calibrate our hearts so that we can deal with everything in life. Everything will become easy to deal with when that sakina is there. And that sakina does not come except from the sky. أنزل السكينة. وهناك قال بعض المفسرين أنزل القرآن أنزل سورة الفتح وهي السكينة. That is actually the sakina. So that is what we need. That is you. We are in desperate need of finding some calm and some peace in our hearts. May Allah Azza wa Jalla help us find that peace in our hearts. Last quick bit of advice for Eid. I can't help myself but say it before I go. Eid is a time where a lot of families get together, which also means a lot of fighting happens. So be mindful of that. Shaitan wants to turn a celebration of ibadah into a celebration of his victory. And the way that will happen is when you see your uncle, your cousin, or whoever, somebody's going to make a comment, it's going to turn into a thing. We're not inviting them anymore next week. Forget about them, this and that. Fight that temptation. Use kind words with each other. You know, you're already thinking of who you're not calling today, or whose text message you're not responding to. So try to fight that feeling and have calmness in your heart and become a source of calmness for others. Have that sakina in you and give that sakina off to others. This is one of the things we should take away with us on the celebration of Eid. It's not just about giving gifts and receiving gifts and giving each other hugs, but really of hearts to come together, hearts to find peace with each other. May Allah Azza wa Jalla soften our hearts towards one another. It's no surprise that it's the same surah that says, وَحَمَا بَيْنَهُمْ. Right? They're merciful and loving towards one another. May Allah Azza wa Jalla make us loving, respectful, and courteous towards one another, and make this Eid a celebration and a blessing by which our families get together, and the ill feelings we have towards one another are evaporated. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن الحكيم ونفعني وإياكم بالآيات. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على أفضلهم وخاتم النبيين محمد الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر ولله الحمد. عيد مبارك.
How are you? I'm good. I have to give you another Eid Al Adha. Imad, you need a hug. Come here. Come here.
عيد مبارك. الله يرضى عليك.
امين يا رب العالمين. تقبل الله منا ومنك.
آمين.
education people
Primo Giovanni.
इसके बगैर कुछ भी नहीं कर सकता मैं इंशाल्लाह जाके कोशिश करने की एग्जाम में कर सकता शुक्रिया
يوم يعدكم.
عيد مبارك يا شيخ كل عام وانت بخير. عيد مبارك ان شاء الله. الله يوفقك. السلام عليكم. Kids, inshallah, we'll have candy and toys in 5 minutes. So we need you to come to inside the masjid.
Okay, mashallah. What part of Canada? Okay. I was in Mississauga not too long ago. Hanging out.
I live in Mississauga.
How you do?
Thank you so much.
You got it. Of course you can. Come on. You're not supposed to picture. What do you want me to do?
Imran. Imran?
Imran, look over there.
I have a question for you, but I'll wait till you get it.
Hold on, I'll be right back. I gotta hug my dad. I'll be right back.
you could add me. You could add me. Because I already added you.
كل عام وانتم بخير. يلا يلا محمد يلا